Help us break down today's election. Mercyhurst University senior political analyst, Dr. Joe Morris. Thanks so much for stopping by this morning. Let's talk about getting people to the polls on a primary election day. It can be difficult. Coming in maybe a couple of months back, it was a presidential primary, some anticipation, but now motivating people to get out there and vote today, it's a challenge, I would imagine.
Sure. So many of those really high-profile elections have been decided. This includes our president and the U.S. Senator. Sure. So we hope that people will nevertheless turn out to vote. There's many other races that are going on, and although we don't have those really high-profile races to pull people in, you just kind of keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, and obviously the races that are still contested are very big in the minds of the candidates in those battles. We're talking about Ryan Bizzarro looking to make the move from a state representative role to a statewide role. How do you see that potentially playing out today in that role for Aaron McClellan, I believe, is a Democratic opponent?
Yeah, I think, well, Ryan Bizzarro, I think, is in a pretty good position to try and make that jump. He has fairly wide name recognition across the state, but it is a big jump moving from a small district to a statewide election. Right. It's always challenging. But that's one of those primaries you definitely want to keep an eye on. It's one of those that is going to be competitive.
Another race that maybe we didn't see coming at the primary level anyway is that state Senate race that has Democrats Jim Wirtz and Selena King going at it. Talk about that one and maybe how you see that one playing out. Maybe not expected back, say, in December of last year.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those races that kind of came out of nowhere, and it's turned out to be a competitive race. And this is the Senate. We're talking about a fairly important race because Democrats always have their sights set on the Pennsylvania Senate. It's always proven to be elusive in many ways, but it's definitely something they're pushing for.
And as far as an open primary or moving Pennsylvania's primary date to make it a little bit more impactful, what's the latest on those efforts?
Yeah, that's one of those issues that's always smoldering in the background, and from time to time, particularly big primary terms like presidential primaries, it turns into a raging fire, and that's kind of what we're dealing with now. But the problem is Pennsylvania is so far back in the primary process that it makes it very difficult for Pennsylvanians to weigh in on the Republican and Democratic nominees.
Realistically, do you see the primary date getting moved, or do you see us going to an open primary, either of those options?
Well, I think right now an open primary is probably more likely, but moving the date is something that the Democratic Party in particular has really tried to put an end to. We saw in 2008 many states pushing their primaries forward, which was really problematic.
All right, and we know the race for a president, those nominees are set, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that November matchup with Joe Biden and Donald Trump coming up in the next half hour. We're hoping you're going to stick around for that. And of course, Tracy, we're counting down to those polls opening, less than an hour away.
Yeah, 7 o'clock this morning. They open. They close at 8 o'clock tonight. You can see a sample ballot for your voting district on your county election website. Remember, mail-in ballots must be in the drop box or election office by 8 o'clock tonight. Erie News Now, of course, the place to be when those returns come in this evening.
Yeah, our whole team.